Cool. So let's jump right into it. So tonight, man, for some of you guys, I'm gonna give you language for where you currently are in life. For other people, it's my hope that I can give you language for where you've been. And then for some, I'm going to give you language for where God may take you into the future. And what I'm speaking about is the hidden place. And if you had to put a title, or if I had to give you a title for this particular training, it will be called Hidden in Plain Sight. I think that's a pretty dope name. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not even gonna hold you. I think the name of the title of the call is just pretty dope. Hidden in plain sight. And we're gonna jump right into that tonight. So again, for some of you guys, it's language for you where you currently are. For some, it's language for where God will take you into the future. And then for others, it's language for where you've been. And speaking of the hidden place, many people reject this place. Some people fear this place. They never want to visit this place simply because they don't know the value of this place. You understand what I'm saying? Because let's keep it a buck. Nobody actually wants to be hidden. Nobody wants to be off platforms. Everybody wants the prize. Everybody wants the platform, and everybody wants to be prosperous. Everybody wants to experience that to some capacity. So while we're here, I would like to pose the question to you. Do you know what it feels like to be overlooked, unseen, forgotten about, or in this term, hidden, or in the context of this call, hidden? If that's you or you've been that way before, drop a 777 in the chat, just so I can kind of know who I'm, talking to tonight. You understand what I'm saying? Just let me know. If that's you've been there before, put a 777 in the chat. All right, there we go. I see him coming in. I see him coming in. Cool. So I'm only doing this call. This is the only reason that this is the topic of this call is because I know how that feels myself. See, for the past 3 years that I have not been doing this particular call, I've been hidden. See, many of you haven't really heard my voice. You haven't seen me on any stages. You haven't really seen me out there how you once knew me to a certain capacity, simply because I've been on a journey with God in the hidden place. So tonight on this training, it's my hope to give you what I've learned in the hidden place, what I've learned in secret. And here's the thing that you have to understand about every single fact, because the fact may be that you have been or you currently may be hidden. That is a fact. But for every single fact, there's a positive and there's a negative. There's no one side of anything. Matter of fact, I will give you $1,000 Apple Pay if you can look around your environment right now and identify any object that has one side. Give you 1,000. If you can look around your environment and find anything that has one side, there's no such thing as a one-sided anything. Every fact has a positive and a negative, but it's your focus that creates the frame around the facts. It's your focus that creates the frame around the facts. So how do you focus on the facts? Because frames create beliefs, and it's beliefs that create feelings. Frames create beliefs, and beliefs create feelings. Focus creates frames. Frames create beliefs. Beliefs creates feelings. And the feeling of anticipation is the feeling that you want to have created, because anticipation produces energy that gives you or anticipation produces the energy that you need to accomplish any task. Anticipation gives you the energy to accomplish any task. But if I have a wrong belief, if I have a negative feeling, then the feeling that then gets created is a feeling that's known as anxiety when we're talking about the hidden place, or any fact for that matter. There's this feeling of anxiety that comes, and this feeling of anxiety doesn't give you the energy that's needed to produce the activity or to do the work that needs to be done. It kind of makes you lethargic. It kind of makes you second guess yourself. It kind of makes you question your ability. So at the end of the day, what you have to do is shift your perspective. You have to shift your perspective about life, shift your perspective about where you are, and shift your perspective about what God is doing in your life. Because it's perspective that determines progress and prosperity in God's kingdom. Please write it down. Perspective is what determines progress and prosperity in God's kingdom. How you view where God has you determines how you value where God has you. How you view it. Because if you view it wrong, you will value it wrong. So you have to view it properly. And you can only view it properly by having the proper perspective. But perspective is determined by position. I feel it coming on now. Perspective is determined by position. Where you sit determines what you see. So my question is, where do you sit? How do you see it? Do you see things from a physical standpoint? Or do you see them from a spiritual standpoint? And it's so easy to be fooled by what we see physically. You want to know why? Because God blessed us with eyes. And in these eyes, we have over 120 million receptors. Matter of fact, in the eyes, this is where the most receptors lie in our body in one central location. So we have over 150 million receptors across our skin. But in our eyes, in one single area, this is where we have the most receptors. But it's so interesting that God tells us not to live by what we see. Don't live by what you see. Don't live by what you see physically. Don't live by what you see when you open your eyes, but live by what you see when you close your eyes. Live by what you see internally. Walk by faith, not by sight, because your eyes will lie to you. Your eyes have the most influence over you because they have the most receptors. So it's very paramount, very important that you shift your perspective and see things from a higher vantage point, especially when we're talking about being hidden. You have to see it from a higher vantage point. It says in Ephesians that we're seated in heavenly places. Your seat in the heavenly realm should reduce the size of your obstacle on earth. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me slow that down. Are y'all okay? Let me get some heat or something in the chat box and let me know y'all are alive because I feel it coming on. I feel myself waking up. I feel myself like getting in this bag that I used to get in. So let me rewind. Where you sit determines what you see. I can't see things from a physical standpoint. I have to see them from a spiritual standpoint. I have to go to a higher vantage point and see things from a higher level. And that higher vantage point is available for me because it says that I'm seated in heavenly realms. Ephesians 2:6. You're seated in heavenly realms, not your physical body, but your spiritual man. Your spiritual essence is seated in a heavenly realm. So your spirit is already ahead of your situation. Your spirit, you're not hearing what I'm saying. You're not hearing what I'm saying. Your spirit is already ahead of your situation because your spirit it knows all. Your spirit has always been here. Your spirit knows everything about your situation. Your spirit has a seat in a heavenly place that gives you a vantage point to see something that your physical eyes cannot. So in spirit, you can see something about the hidden place that your physical eyes cannot see. So the question or the prayer or the wish, the question or the ask from God should be, or the request, the demand. Let me rephrase that. The demand from God is, or to God is, show me what you see. Give me the perspective of heaven concerning my situation, because it says that I'm seated. It says it past tense. It doesn't say that you will be seated. It says that you're already seated. Go read it for yourself. Ephesians 2:6. It says that you're already seated in heavenly realms. So if I'm already seated in the heavenly realm in a high place, give me the right vantage point about my situation. Give me the right perspective about my situation. Give me the perspective of heaven concerning my situation, because where you sit determines what you see. And when people cannot see what God is doing, they stumble all over themselves. But when they attend to what he reveals, that's when they're the most blessed. That's Bible too. I forgot where it was at. The Bible is so in me, I can't remember the scriptures all the time. So forgive me, but just Google it. When people can't see what God is doing, they stumble all over themselves. They make mistakes. They trip. They stumble. They mess up because they can't see what he's doing. But when they attend to what he reveals, that's when they're the most blessed. So if I want to be the most blessed, then I have to have the eyes to see what God is doing. Eyes that can look are common, but eyes that can see are rare. So, God, give me the eyes to see what you're doing in the midst of this hidden place that you may have me in. Give me the eyes to see everything that you see about my situation. Change my perspective so that I can create a new focus around this fact, because the fact may be that I might be hidden. Or the fact may be that I might be homeless. The fact may be that I might be in a sticky situation, but give me frame, the proper focus to create the frame around this fact, to give me the right feeling, to give me the right belief, so that I can have the right action and the right activity to change my situation along with you. Because when people can't see what God is doing, they stumble all over themselves. So ask God to change your perspective about the place that he's positioned you. Ask God to change your perspective about what you perceive to be as problems, because sometimes problems are not problems. They only became problems because we've talked them into becoming problems because our mouth does not know how to stop creating. So what if the thing that you thought was a problem wasn't actually a problem, but it only became a problem because you talked about it as if it was a problem? So because you talked about it as if it was a problem, then a problem had to show up. So change your perspective on the place. It feels so good. I'm back. Change your perspective on the place that God has positioned you. Change your perspective on what you perceive to be problems. Because what if what you're seeing, let me rephrase that. What if the way in which you see something may not be the way that it actually is? What if the way that you see something was not the way that it actually was? What if there was another side to it? Because you know that there's always another side. I mean, we've just talked about that. You can't look around your home and find anything that has one side. Everything has two sides. For every up, there's a down. For every left, there's a right. For every back, there's a front. So, what if the way that you're seeing it was not the way that it actually was? What if there was another way of looking at it? Let me move on. Let me move on. So, if you have not taken any notes so far, that would be really rude of you. But if you have not taken a note, here's the first note that you should write down. Those that God uses greatly, he first prepares greatly. And many times this preparation happens in the hidden place. Yeah. Those that God uses greatly, he first prepares greatly. And many times the preparation happens in the hidden place. See, Joseph was hidden in Potiphar's house and in prison as a slave for years before he became the second in command of all of Egypt in one day. But he was hidden for like 13 years. But in one day, he became second in command of all of Egypt. That's what I would liken to something called a lifestyle leap or bamboo season, a supernatural acceleration, whatever you want to coin it as. But for 13 years, he was hidden and he was a nobody. But in one day, he became second in command of all of Egypt and commanded wealth and resources and leadership and was over people. Paul was hidden in the desert for 3 years after this encounter with Jesus and went on to write 2/3 of the New Testament and became one of the greatest figures in the faith. David was hidden in the wilderness on multiple occasions on his rise to becoming one of the greatest kings to ever live. God hid Elijah for 3 years before he would show a pagan kingdom who the true God was. Jesus himself was hidden. We don't know anything about Jesus from the age of 12 to 30. Hidden, because great things happen in the hidden place, but you have to have the proper perspective. Write this down. Fruitfulness is directly tied to being hidden. Fruitfulness is directly tied to being hidden. So if God has hidden you, you have to understand that what follows that is fruitfulness. Are y'all okay? Yes. Fruitfulness is directly tied to being hidden. See, when you look at God's word, what he reveals to us is patterns. And patterns reveal principles, and principles reveal promises. And so when we see these patterns of God hiding some of his heroes in the Bible, we can find principles in their lives, but also promises as well. So it's pretty much a promise that fruitfulness is directly tied to being hidden. I mean, let's just take a look at nature. You plant an apple seed, what comes up? An apple tree. Because fruitfulness is directly tied to being hidden. You plant an orange seed, what comes up? Oranges. Here's what I need you to understand. In the hands of God, you're a seed. Wait a minute. In the hands of God, you're a seed, and he plants you in this soil of earth. And at the right time, he wants to get a harvest from, from the seed of your life. This is why you have to be hidden, because you are a seed. So because you are a seed, you have to be hidden. Is this making sense? If I'm a seed in the hands of God, and if I'm a seed in the hands of God, and God wants to get a harvest from every seed that he sows, doesn't it make sense for him to hide me at some point in my life? Maybe you're not hidden right now and you're already on platform, but if you look back over the course of your life, there was a time where nobody knew who you were. There was a time when nobody knew who you were. So that's why I say I'm going to give you language for where you've been, where you are, or where God will take you at some point. Where was I? So fruitfulness is directly tied to being hidden. Before Moses became the leader of the Exodus and went on to lead 2 million people out of slavery and part the Red Sea, something that nobody has in the history has ever done before, God hid him and prepared him in Midian, where he was a nobody. Now watch this. After he was once a somebody. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me pause for the cause real quick. Before Moses became the leader of the Exodus and became the Moses that we all know that parted the Red Sea and just raised his staff, God sent him into Midian, into the wilderness where he was a nobody. But before that, he was a somebody. What do I mean by that? See, maybe you're not familiar with the story of Moses, but Moses was an Israelite, a Hebrew, born to Hebrew parents, and there was a decree that went out to say all Hebrew kids under the age of 2 were going to be killed. So Moses' mom hid him at birth, pushed him down a river, and by the divine timing of God, the daughter of the king of Egypt, Pharaoh's daughter, was there to pick up Moses out of the water. Moses went on to be raised as a Hebrew in an Egyptian household. And he spent the first half of his life there being taught everything in the ways of Egypt. He lived a life of royalty. He had a platform. When he spoke, people would listen to him. But there was a point in time where he had to go into the wilderness. And then he lived as a nobody, far away from public view. He was a servant hidden in the valley. Now, I don't know if anybody can relate to that. Have you ever been in a place where you were once on, but then you were off? Have you ever been on top and then you had to go back to the bottom? It's a very interesting place to, wait a minute. It's a very interesting place to be when you have to go from the top to the bottom. You want to know why? Because when you've been at the bottom and you've never been to the top, you only have an idea of what the top looks like. You only have an idea of what the top feels like. You only have an idea of what type of foods you can eat at the top. You only have an idea about where you can shop and what you can do and where you can travel. It's only an idea. It's not reality. It's not a real concept because you've never experienced it. But when you experience the top, and have to go back to the bottom and carry the memories of being at the top. It's the worst. It's the worst. So imagine Moses living a life of royalty in Egypt. Egypt at this time was the greatest place in the world. He was the grandson of the king. There was nothing that Moses could want that he could not get. There was nobody that he could speak to that would not listen. There was no woman that he could not have. Moses was the man. He was the grandson of the king. But then there came to a place where he had to go into the wilderness and be a nobody. He had to go into the wilderness and be a nobody. God had to hide him to develop him. And if you haven't written anything else down, that's what you should write down. God hides us to develop us. And here's what he's more concerned with. He's more concerned with the state of your hearts than the state of your gifts. Yeah. He's more concerned with the state of your hearts than the state of your gift. He's concerned about your gift. He develops the gift as well in the darkness, in the hidden place, because it was in the hidden place where Moses learned how to lead because he was a shepherd. So he develops gifts and talents and skills in the hidden place, but what he cares more about is the heart work. Heart work. See, development happens in the dark. It's in the dark room where a photographer takes a photograph and they put the photograph in the dark room to develop all of the negatives. Because what happens if the negatives get exposed too quickly? This is why you can't be in a rush to get out. See, I was never in a rush. See, if you know me well, you know that I've been chilling. I haven't been in no Gio talks to me pretty often. I haven't been in this place where like, I gotta get back, I gotta do a call. No, I wasn't in a rush. You wanna know why? Because God has been working out my negatives. He's been working out my negatives. You understand? And I know I'm gifted. Hey, I can train and speak and talk and communicate with the best of them. I'm very aware of that. It's not out of pride, it's about awareness. Do you realize that everything that we know about Jesus, or the majority of things we know about Jesus, he said them himself? So it's not out of pride that I'm saying that I'm good at what I do. It's awareness. But I'm also aware enough to know that God was processing me. Yeah. hmm So what does God prepare? He prepares your heart, your head, and your hands. In the hidden place, he prepares your heart, your head, and your hand. Heart meaning, your emotions, your subconscious mind, how you perceive things has everything to do with the level of character, your heart, your head, how you mentally process and perceive and your perspective, your head, your hand, your skills, what you do with these things. He prepares them in the wilderness, in the hidden place. And he also purifies you of pride. Yeah. He also purifies you of pride. See, it's pride that makes you want to be in control and control the outcomes. But let me tell you something about controlling the outcome. Never try to manipulate it. Never try to manipulate the outcome. Because what happens when you start to carry weight that you were not meant to carry? You will break. Control is an illusion. You never actually have control. You never have control. God just allows you to think that you have control out of your pride, but you never have control. The only way to truly have control is by relinquishing control. That's when you can say, I control it because I'm not in control, if that makes any sense to you. So never try to manipulate the outcome and try to control an outcome and push yourself out of a place that God has ordained you to be in, because you may end up carrying weight that you were not meant to carry, and only God can carry. God, weight. You're not built for that. But your pride, watch this, your pride may make you believe that you are. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine that. So the first point, that was all one point. Those that God uses greatly, he prepares greatly. And many times this preparation happens in the hidden place. But here's what you have to know about the hidden place as well. Never allow your hidden season to make you forget who you are and what you carry. Wait a minute. Never allow your hidden seasons to make you forget who you are and what you carry because it's so easy to do that. Oh my goodness, it's so easy to do that. It's so easy to fall into the trap of believing that you hold no value simply because you're not visible. Whoa, what you say? Yeah, it's so easy to feel that nobody values me. That's not true. They just don't see you. You're just not visible to them. And I'm gonna tell you why later. But so you can't fall into the trap of believing that you hold no value because it's easy to feel, oh man, somebody, I posted this video on Instagram, man, it only got 200 views. That doesn't mean the video is not valuable. Only 200 people saw it. Only 200 people saw it, gang. If more than 200 people saw it, maybe you would think that is valuable, more valuable because it was more visible. But how many videos have gone viral that hold no value whatsoever? So don't conflate your value with visibility because even in the pit, Joseph carried value. Even in the wilderness, Moses carried value. Even by the brook, Elijah carried value. Even in the Arabian desert, after being converted by Christ, Paul carried value. But just because nobody sees you, that does not mean that you're not valuable. So it's so easy to do that. It's so easy to allow the hidden season, the hidden place to make you forget who you are and what you carry. Do you know Moses did that? See, as you peruse through the Bible in Acts, it says that Moses was powerful in speech and action. Moses was powerful in speech and action. Why is that relevant to what we're talking about? Because when God called Moses and commissioned Moses to be the leader of those 2 million people that we were just discussing, do you know that Moses protested to God 5 times? And he gave every reason why he was not fit, why he was not qualified, why he was not positioned or ready to do and carry out the call. And one of the objections that he had to God is that I can't speak. I stumble over my words. Now, it's interesting that that says that because later it says that Moses was powerful in speech and action, meaning Moses could talk that talk and Moses could also walk that walk. But I wonder, what does a 40-year hideout do to somebody? What does that do to somebody's confidence? Hmm? I mean, for some of y'all, what has it done to your confidence? We're talking about Moses, but we're talking about us too. It's so easy to do that. So never allow your hidden season to make you forget who you are and what you carry. You understand what I'm saying? Here's what you also have to understand about the hidden place. Favor follows you even in your hidden seasons. Yeah, favor, if you look at your life, you can look at your life, even though it may not be what you desire it to be. It may not be, you may not be where you want it to be, but if you look around, you should see favor all around you because it could be way worse. And that's why perspective shifts are so important. This is why it's so important because it allows you to see and have a level of gratitude and recognize the favor that God has shown you, even in your hidden seasons. Joseph had a dream at 12 or 13 years old. that he was going to rule, so to say, over his family. That dream got Joseph in trouble with his brothers. His brothers sold him into slavery or put him in the pit. He was then sold into slavery, where he became a house slave in the house of Potiphar. Potiphar's wife said he tried to rape her. He then went into prison for a few years. And every place that Joseph went in Egypt, Joseph had favor, even though he was hidden. Favor followed him, just like favor follows you. But what's interesting about Joseph's life is this, and this goes into gift development. When Joseph first has his dream, pay attention. When Joseph first has his dream was a self-serving interpretation of the dream. There was a level of like immaturity and maybe even a level of pride in him interpreting the dream to his brothers. Go read it for yourself in like Genesis 37, right? And because of that, he was then sold into slavery, became a house slave, then became a prisoner. And everywhere that he went, in Potiphar's house was more successful than it ever was when Joseph was there. Even in the prison was ran successfully by Joseph. He was put as the leader of that prison as a prisoner, right? But while he was in prison, the two of the king's servants, please pay attention to this. This is about manipulating outcomes. While he was in prison, two of the king's servants come down to the prison and they're very distraught and they have dreams. Both of them have a dream. They don't know what the dream means, but because Joseph have this gift of interpreting dreams, right? Joseph goes up to them and says, "Hey man, reveal to me your dream." Also, what's interesting is this is the only time outside of the first time Joseph has a dream where dreams show up again. But the second time that dreams show up is not him. It's not a self-serving type of dream. It's for somebody else. Please pay attention because your gift is not for you. It's for somebody else. Your skill is not for you. It's for somebody else. Why you're put here on this earth is not for you. It's for somebody else. This is how you know that God will pull you out of your hidden place because when you don't live out what you're supposed to be doing, people go without something that they need. But the crazy part is people don't even know that they're missing it. You understand what I'm saying? Just like somebody, and again, this is not out of pride, this is just out of reality. There's somebody that's listening to me, and you thought to yourself over the course of this call, like, dang, man, I really missed these calls. But you didn't know you missed these calls. You had no idea that you missed these calls. You understand what I'm saying? So, where was I? Joseph. So, they have a dream. They have a dream. The cupbearer and the cake baker, they have a dream. And Joseph goes up to them and says, "Hey man, what's going on with you? You seem to be a little bit distraught." And they tell Joseph, "I had a dream. I don't know what the dream means." Joseph goes on to interpret their dreams and tell them successfully what their dream actually meant. They're blown away. They're like, "Bet this is dope." So Joseph tells the cupbearer, one of the king's servants, he says, "When you get out of here, remember me, mention my name to the king, to Pharaoh, because I do not belong here." This is Joseph trying to manipulate the outcome. But when the cupbearer gets out of prison, God makes the cupbearer forget that he even spoke to Joseph. And 3 full years go by. 3 full years. How many years? 3 full years go by. And the cupbearer remembers Joseph. God brought to remembrance Joseph. Why? Because the king had a problem. The king's problem was he had a dream. He did not know what the dream meant. The cupbearer said, "Man, when I was locked down, I was with this kid named Joseph. Joseph interpreted my dream. Maybe he can interpret your dream." The king says, "All right, bet. Go get Joseph." Joseph comes out of prison, interprets the dream successfully. The king makes Joseph, or the Pharaoh makes Joseph second in command of all of Egypt. All this happened in the matter of one day. One day. So Joseph had favor throughout this whole entire process. And in one day, he interprets the dream, becomes the second in command of all of Egypt. But for 3 years after he tells the cupbearer to remember my name to the king, or remember me and mention my name to the king, nothing happens. You want to know why nothing happened? I'm about to tell you. Because when God hides you, please pay attention. Please put this in your notes. When God hides you, he won't allow any man to shine enough light on you to make you be revealed until it's time for you to be revealed. When God hides you, he will not allow any man or woman to shine enough light on you to make you be revealed until it is time for you to be revealed. Meaning you cannot manipulate anything. You can't do anything until God says it's time for you to come out of that place. You're going to be in it. And this is why you have to embrace it and honor it. Embrace it and honor it. Because when God hides you, nobody can shine enough light on you to make you be revealed until it is time for you to be revealed. Well, how do I know it was in this time? We're going to talk about that in a second. Right? So here's the next thing that I need you to put in your notes. Because whenever he does bring you out of the hidden place, he's bringing you out to solve a problem that will advance his kingdom. When God brings you out of the hidden place, he's only bringing you out to solve a problem that will advance his kingdom. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, Joseph, why did he come out? Why did Joseph come out of hiding or the hidden place? Because Joseph was, we talked about him being the second in command of all of Egypt, but why is that relevant? Why is that important? Because there was a famine coming. And this famine was going to last for 7 years. A 7-year famine would have obliterated the entire population. But Joseph, the wise man, God put him in position to manage and steward over all of the wealth that the kingdom had brought in for 7 years. So for 7 years, they were wealthy. For 7 years, they're getting money. But Joseph had to manage all the resources because there was going to be 7 years that followed that will be famine. And if this famine was successful, it would have obliterated the entire land. Why is that relevant? Because God's people was known as the people of Israel. And those people have been obliterated too. And if those people get obliterated, then where does Jesus come from? So God only brought Joseph out of hiding to solve a problem that will advance his kingdom. He purified Joseph's heart of pride because he was going to have to rule over his brothers and talk to his brothers. He refined Joseph's gifts because the first time we hear about Joseph's gifts, he's talking about his gifts in the level of pride. But then over the time in this hidden place, God has been refining his character, refining his gift, refining him, his character, who he is as a person, his hearts. And then at the right time, God pulled him out to solve a problem that will advance his kingdom. Now, my question is, if there was a famine coming, what happens if Joseph got out of prison early? Let me ask you this question. Think about this for a second. What happens if Joseph gets out of prison early and goes back to spend time with his family and leaves the kingdom? There is no wise person in charge of all of the resources. So everybody perishes. Everybody. And there's no Jesus to come. So when God brings you out of the hidden place, is to advance his kingdom. But here's what I need you to know. Anytime you stay hidden longer than the time God has ordained for you to be hidden, you're no longer hidden, but you're now hiding. Danielle, there's a very big difference between being hidden and hiding. And I wonder if you are somebody, whoever's on the call tonight, I wonder if you're confusing being hidden and hiding. Because we hide out of fear, we hide out of insecurity. I mean, it's just food for thought. It's because it's easy to say, oh, well, it's God got me hidden, so I'm chilling. No, 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 my brother. What if you weren't hidden, but you were just hiding? Maybe because you're scared of success. Maybe because you're scared of the opinions of other people. Maybe because you have a level of insecurity. Maybe because you have some unhealed trauma that has never been worked out. So you're scared to move and take a step. So you hide in the background. Kind of like when God called Saul to be the first king of all of Egypt. And when Samuel pulled up to get Saul, Saul was hiding with the bags. Go read it in First Samuel. He was hiding. When he's called to be king, he goes to hide out of insecurity. So anytime you stay hidden longer than the time that God has ordained you to be hidden, you're no longer hidden, but you're now hiding. But how do I know when God is saying it's my time? How do I know? How do I know when God is saying it's time for you to be revealed? Hmm. It's a good question, right? So the first thing that you have to do is pay attention to the signs. Pay attention to the signs. Pay attention to what people are talking to you about. Pay attention to your environments. Pay attention to the places that you're in. Pay attention to all of the things that are happening around you. How did I know that it was time to do a mindset mastery? Because over the past couple of weeks, I've been having so many people call me just about advice and mentorship and say, man, you added so much value to my life. But for 3 years, nobody was calling me saying nothing. Nobody. But out of the blue, just random, like 5 calls in 1 week. I'm like, okay, I hear you, God. I see you. So you have to pay attention to the signs. Then you also have to pay attention to the feelings. Pay attention to the feelings that you feel. See, I started to feel like, wait a minute, what is this in me that's making me want to talk to somebody? What is this in me that's making me want to add value on Instagram when I haven't been doing nothing but chilling? What is making me want to do this stuff? Why do I have this feeling? Why am I feeling what I'm feeling? Why do I feel like a chipmunk with acorns all in my mouth, ready to just get some out? Pause, by the way. Why do I feel that way? Why do I feel that way? And then most importantly, pay attention to his voice. Yeah. Pay attention to his voice. Mhm. But it's hard to pay attention to his voice when you can't hear his voice. It's very hard to do that. It's hard to hear his voice when you're so cluttered with so many other voices and so many other distractions. It's hard to hear his voice when you don't know his voice. And imagine being in a hidden place, but you can't hear the voice of the one that has you hidden. That's a tragedy. That's a tragedy. See, it was the voice of God that told Elijah to go hide by the Cherith Brook. It was the voice of God that told Elijah to leave the Cherith Brook because the brook has dried up and go chill out with the widow in Zarephath, enemy lines. Go behind enemy lines and hang out with the widow. It was the voice of God that told Elijah to do that. It was the voice of God that told Elijah to leave this place with the widow and go present yourself before the king, reveal yourself to the king of the king of Israel, Ahab, who has brought idols and false gods into my kingdom and my people. Go now, present yourself to him. If Elijah couldn't hear his voice, man, Elijah would have still been at the brook. So anytime you stay hidden longer than the time that God has ordained you to be hidden, you're no longer hidden, but you're hiding. So how do I know if God has now called me to come out of this place of being hidden and to present myself to people where I can add value to their lives? Pay attention to the signs, pay attention to the feelings, and pay attention to his voice. Man, I hope you got value tonight. I hope you got value tonight. Oh my God, that was amazing. That was good. 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 So what I'm gonna do real quick is I'm gonna just unmute the lines real quick, and I would just love to hear some input, man, some takeaways, something. I would like for these calls to be interactive. And just a sidebar, I'm doing this every week, just so you know. So like this ain't no. one-time thing. This ain't no, I'm testing the waters. This is no, we're back. We're doing this. So I would like for these last few moments to be a bit interactive, communicative, and just I would like to hear from somebody. So I'm gonna allow the you guys to unmute yourself.